Hi, everybody. Welcome. I'm laughing, and before I even start talking, I'm laughing. And why am I laughing? Because this is one unusual, off the charts interview uh, with Allison. I hope I'm saying your name right. I didn't even ask you.
Yes,
Gieshen.
you are.
Yeah, Gieshen,
You
right?
are.
So I'm with
Mhm.
Allison Gieshen and Dan Gieshen. And I've never done this before. I can only dream of being somewhere in the vicinity of Tahiti, and that's where Allison is right now, live from Tahiti. It sounds like a TV show, live from wherever. Where in some, you can tell us in a minute, in some island near Tahiti. This is a movie, and I've said this to Allison and Dan in the background. It's a movie. What you've done, what you're doing is beyond, because it just doesn't happen every day. Allison's a Jersey girl, by the way.
Mhm.
There's a guy, and her son went to Rutgers for a bit. Just great synchronicities, what I'm discovering. By the way, it's 9 o'clock in the morning where she is near Tahiti. They've been married for 30 years, and how they got together, we can talk about that. It's a
40 years,
four.
40.
Oh, okay. I'm looking. My notes are a little need to be updated. So 40 years. Extraordinary how you guys got together. You can talk about that. You're a writer, but you both had dreams of what you're doing to do, and that's what you're doing. So, and we're going to talk about that. Uh, uh, you're into your third session, writing the waves of reality. You keep documenting and journaling this. We're going to talk about this. There's number three coming up. I've also said to Allison, come back. You can come back every week and talk about where you are, because it's so fascinating, and I'm so exuberant about this. So you sold everything you had, and you're journeying around the world. Soon New Zealand, Australia. My head is so swimming. I guess that's a great word. Swimming with all this input and the stuff we're going to talk about. So what I often do is I do a commercial for folks out there who are watching this. Please subscribe. I have my little thing with YouTube all the time. It takes about a quarter of a second to subscribe. Don't cost anything, but it helps the algorithm. It just helps. So please subscribe. Uh, I could do such a lengthy monologue, not necessary, because we're going to hear it from Allison directly. And I'm so glad the universe got us together. Truly, this is a universal thing, and you're spiritual, I'm spiritual. And I think the whole notion of whenever you want to talk about where you are, I can help journalize it and spread the word around. I think that's a wonderful idea. I'm excited about that. And I'm done. I'm stuttering because it's great stuff. This is such great stuff to be where you are, to look at that. I mean, it's not the Jersey Shore; it's the South Pacific. It's a
Mhm.
wonderful play, South Pacific, great movie. Anyway, I'm done. Allison, why don't you say some opening things, whatever you want to talk about, and then we will talk. Take it away.
Okay. So we've been doing this for 8 years. And while it was a shared dream, it took a long time to get here. And we met in a sailboat race, I guess back in 20, I don't remember what year were we married in? What? 1985. So we met in 1984 at a sailboat race. 85, and he was getting ready to go back to Philadelphia. I was getting ready to go to school back at Charlotte because I was finishing up my senior year at UNCC. And he goes, my dream is to sail around the world someday. And I said, mine too. Let's get married. So we did. And we were married less than a year later by his father, who was a Lutheran minister. And he married us on the lawn where we met at the yacht club. And from there, it was a whirlwind because we got married. I immediately had to move up where he was because I was fresh out of college and he was working at the Philadelphia Naval Shipyard. And he built me a beautiful horse farm. I came with horses and he built it by hand. I mean, every board in that house, every piece of wire, every roof tile, he did it by hand. Every fence post he dug out with a fence. Well, we dug out with We didn't even have an electric one. We had to do it by hand. And we built this amazing farm and raised our kids, and they ran barefoot and they played in the dirt, and we just had a really amazing experience, but there was no way that we could live our dream. So 30 years pass, and I had become a school teacher, and he was a marine engineer. And when our last son got married, he finally looked at me one day and he goes, "It's time." And I go, "Time for what?" Because we're going to follow our dream. So we made a 5-year plan, and we educated ourselves. We went to boat shows. We went to seminars. We read books. And 5 years later, exactly, we cast off the dock lines. And we've been out 8 years and not have looked back once.
Wow. There's a million questions. So you know what? Let's just jump into this. We could talk for hours, but over the months and months to come, we'll talk for hours. It's just so well. It is. It just is because we all have dreams. We all have dreams, and some of the dreams are a little, far out. And this was far out, but there you are, far out. See, wow. So, you just said how you decided, to do this, and you kind of hinted at when did the dream act? Well, you told us the dream became a decision, and you just and boom, you just did it. Most people dream, and few really actually leave shore and don't get on an airplane. What gave you, by the way, and this is an important word, Allison, courage. But you got to have an enormous amount of courage to do this.
Well, that courage came from devastation, to be honest, because I had been a school teacher and for many, many years. And then I even got a master's in administration and leadership, hoping to become, and I got my New Jersey principal certification. I wanted to be a school principal. And then 6 miles from my house, the government was building a $25 million horse park. Now, being a horse girl all my life and having a degree in administration, when they offered me a job to run this $25 million horse park and its horse programs, I said yes. And I left my teaching job, my tenured teaching position. And it turned out that the individuals running it, surprise, surprise, were very, very corrupt. And they were stealing money and they were doing really bad things. And worst of all is they were misogynists. And me and the other women that worked there were getting brutalized. I mean, just horribly, horribly treated. And they just went in every day and they made me just go home crying. And then I said, "Dan, I can't take this anymore." And we actually filed a lawsuit against them. And without any contestation, we won it. We won the lawsuit. But I could never go back and get my teaching job again because I was making too much money. And they wouldn't hire me back at the price that they let me go at. They couldn't legally. So I went into a state of depression. I gave up my teaching career. I was brutalized by these men. My whole being was just wiped out. I had nothing left. And that's when he looked at me and he said, "We're going to do it. We're going to do our 5-year plan." And he did it to rescue me and to fulfill our dreams. So I have to say that it was born out of necessity to pull me out of this pit that I was in.
I'm just taking notes on this. So extra. So I wish I was a screenwriter. My goodness. When I jump into this, and we'll talk more about that. Anyway, okay. So, 8 years later, you've been doing this for 8 years. Has this adventure been harder or more beautiful than you imagined?
All of the above.
All of the above. Okay.
I wake up mornings and I look outside at this view, and I still 8 years later have to pinch myself. And it's been harder than I ever imagined. Just this year, we got stuck for 7 months on Nuku because our engine broke, and our engine, they don't make the parts for it anymore, so you have to fix them. And it turned into this horrible saga, this chain of events that made us sit there for 7 months before we could get our engine fixed. And that was really hard for me because all our friends, we meet the same people all around the world. The circumnavigation route, the same people go to the same places all the way around the world. So you run into them and you make these wonderful friendships, and you stay in a harbor for, several weeks together, and then you meet up again. I watched all my friends come and go. And I would just wake up mornings crying and going, Dan, how much longer? And he's like, I'm sorry, honey, I don't know. I don't know. And coming across, getting here to the Pacific, we had a horrible, horrible crossing. We had engine problems. Our sail ripped twice. And we got caught on a net from the Chinese fishing fleet, and it took out our steering and our autopilot. So we were almost lost at sea.
I, I,
And that's what my third book is about, is this amazing adventure we had crossing the Pacific. So that was the bottom, the low points. But when you undertake a journey of this magnitude and you devote your life to it, you expect that there are going to be things that happen, and you learn how to deal with them, and you accept them as just part of the journey. But on the converse side of that, it makes you appreciate every good moment that much more. So I've never lost that appreciation. I've never lost that sense of awe and wonder. I am grateful every day we have, and every day we're able to do this. And when the bad stuff happens, I'm getting stronger, I think, I hope.
You've now visited, according to my notes, more than 64 countries on 5 continents. Was there a destination or a place that changed you a lot, the most?
I would probably say French Polynesia, definitely French Polynesia, because we just had the experience of visiting these remote atolls. I don't know if you know what an atoll is, but it's the remnants of a volcano where the volcano sunk, and there's just a ring of sand and palm trees. And they can be many, many, many miles wide. But when you fly over them, they look like these perfect little rings in the ocean. And we flew over them, and it was magical. I'm like, I can't believe we're going to sail there. And we did. And meeting the people that live on these remote atolls that have nothing, they literally just exist off the land. They have little tiny huts that are homes with windows with no glass panes, a door with maybe a piece of cloth over it, no furniture, and just a mattress on the floor. And that's their lives. And they're the happiest, most grateful, and most gracious people I've ever met in my life. And just going to one of their homes for dinner and listening to their stories and how simply they live, but how much happier they are without all that stuff and without getting up every day and working to have that stuff. It was just amazing.
Mm, mm. Yeah, I know what an atoll is because they used to do atomic testing on, I think it was Bikini Atoll. Um,
Yeah, that wasn't really an atoll. That was an island off of,
oh,
we
okay.
actually visited it. It was an
Oh,
island
wow.
off of Panama.
Oh, wow. So I know they did some stuff there. And listen, the South Pacific is always fascinating me. Have you uh, encountered some really bad weather? That
Oh, yeah. Our very first ocean crossing. We went to I said to Dan, the first time we cross an ocean, I want to be part of a rally. That's where a whole group of boats go together, and you have weather routers. You spend a week preparing, and they educate you. They give you, all the information you need. They check your boat, your safety equipment. And then when the time comes, you all cross together. So it was a 1,500-mile passage from the Norfolk area to the Virgin Islands. And so we started off the morning of, and we're all excited, and the whole fleet is taken off. There was like 30 boats, I guess. And we heard a noise in our propeller. And Dan's like, I don't want to cross the ocean. And it was just after Hurricane Irma. So everything in the islands was pretty much wiped out. There would have been no place to get repairs there. So he said, we have to hang back and get this checked out. So we did. And we ended up leaving 10 days later. And the weather router was still working with us. And he said, okay, you got to get across the what is it called? The Gulfstream right now, because if you don't, you're going to lose another 10 days. There's no more good weather coming. So we pulled up our anchor, we headed off, we shot off across the Gulfstream, and across the stream was fine. That's notoriously rough, but we went through smoothly. So 24 hours later, we're on the other side, and that was 5 a.m. I came up for my watch, and the sun was coming up over the horizon. And as the sun rays filtered in and the light shone on the water, I see this giant wave coming. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And I like held on for dear life, but the boat just went up and over and back down again. And I'm like, what in the world was that? And then I see another one coming. And then I realized to my horror, that's just the size of the waves that we were going through, but it was dark and I couldn't see them. So I'm pounding my foot on the floor because the
Oh,
bunk we sleep in is right under where, where the helm is. And I'm pounding and I'm like, Dan, you got to get up here. So he had just been in bed like for 20 minutes and he came up and he goes, what's the matter? I'm like, look at the size of these waves. Well, have you seen the movie A Perfect Storm?
oh, I sure have.
Okay, we
Only
were in a
once.
perfect storm.
I can't
Yeah.
watch it again. So that was a
Oh,
perfect storm wave.
well, what happened was there was a front behind us and a front in front of us, and they were converging and they were causing the exact scenario. So while the waves were spread apart, as the two fronts converged, we ended up having 18 to 20-foot waves, and they were breaking and crashing on the bow of our boat. So we spent 24 hours of these waves crashing on our boat, and at one point it ripped our dinghy off the deck of the boat, and it ripped the two handles that were bolted to the deck out of the deck, and it put the dinghy through the lifeline. But the dinghy was still tied to the mast. So as we're crashing over these waves, Dan is, I have to go out on the deck and cut that free. I'm like, Dan, you're going to die if you go out there. He goes, no, I have to do it. So he had to go out on deck and cut this dinghy free. And when I saw how quickly it just washed away, like in the blink of an eye, I know if he went overboard, I was just going to jump in with him because there's no way I was going to be on this boat without him. But he cut it free because we would have been demasted. And then we heard this pounding, and the anchor came loose, and it was pounding against the hull, threatening to put a hole in the hull. So then he had to go back all the way to the foredeck and secure the anchor. And when we would drop down over the waves, he would actually come off the deck. The boat would just go out from underneath him, and then he would be airborne. So he's trying to repair this anchor out in those conditions, which he did. So he finally came back, and we're just looking at each other going, what's going to happen next? And he goes, well, maybe we need to get out of here. So we called my cousin with our sat phone at the time, and he said, you have to get off the Atlantic now. You've got to get off now. So we tacked, we turned, we started heading back towards shore. The moment that we turned, the sun came out, the waves started to settle, and no lie, a pod of dolphins started leaping out of the water, and one leaped like right over the bow of our boat. And you could see they were joyous, and that was our signal that, yeah, we made the right decision. So we got back to land. We had $14,000 worth of damage. We lost a solar panel, a titanium whisker pole, all our scuba gear that was in the dinghy, just all these awful things. And the insurance paid every single time. They paid the $14,000 worth of damage, but it sure gave us a taste of what can happen.
You got, I mean, you're in tune to all the weather wherever you're going. You're watching, you're listening to weather and stuff to kind of guide you.
Yep.
Wow. Yeah, I saw the perfect storm. I love George Clooney and I love Mark Wahlberg, but I couldn't watch it again because it just scared me.
I wouldn't watch it now.
No,
I did
no,
see it
no,
once, so I wouldn't watch it now.
no, not at all. Wow. Ah, this is so fascinating. And a lot of these things are documented in here, correct? In your
That is the story of us doing the whole boat buying, setting out, and our first storm. So it's the first 3 years of our journey. Yes.
okay. And then the next edition, which is out, that picks up and fills in. And now you're working on the third edition.
Correct.
I mean, and you know what? I've got I have the picture here, but I've got to read about this because it's so fascinating. It just is. Um, I'm a big sunrise guy.
Me too.
You have a particular best sunrise you've seen?
It's hard after being out here 8 years, but I do remember crossing the Atlantic Ocean, and it was one of our best crossings. It was where nothing bad happened. It was just a really magical experience. And the first time where I looked out at the water and being in the middle of the ocean, and I had no idea how many days we had been out there, and I had no desire to go to land. I'm like, this is my home. Like wherever I am on this ocean, this is my home. And I felt the first comfort of being out at sea that I had felt, especially after having experienced storms and being afraid of them. And that morning, I always choose to be on the watch where I am awake during the sunrise. The day that I had that feeling, the sun came up as this orange globe, and it just spread these fingers of orange light up into the clouds, and the rays were shining through like spotlights, and it was just lit up like something that my mind could never imagine or I've never seen a picture of. And it was absolutely magical. I just sat there and I couldn't even take a picture. I was just so breathless. But there's a lot of them that are really beautiful, but I think if I had to pick one, it would be that one.
Oh my gosh, my phone. Oh. I can appreciate sunrise. We once did a cruise. I don't even remember where, probably down to the Bahamas or Bermuda, and we were coming back, and the sun was just rising, and we were crossing underneath the Verrazano. I love cruising, by the way. That's the only holiday. Uh, I mean, I just love. We've done so many different cruises. We flew to Italy and cruised there. We flew to Greece and cruised there. I just love, love, love cruising, but I also love big ships. Uh,
Right.
but the sunrise, and I was on deck because we were going to be docking soon. The sunrise was just unbelievable, and I took this great picture of the sun casting its colors on the base of the Verrazano Bridge. It was
Oh,
extraordinary.
wow.
It was
Wow.
the perfect timing. I was there. It was just so perfect. Um, okay, moving on. Uh, Writing the waves of reality and this should be reading for anyone and everybody. It just to experience above and beyond what we're going to talk about. Um, uh, what would you say are the rays, and what you're doing, Allison, you and Dan? What are the rays of reality that everyone who faces doing what you're doing, whether you should sail or not? I mean, you never have any second regrets. What you're doing is no, okay. This is what you love doing,
Yes.
and
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 they're, like I said, it's not difficult times, and they're not times that I don't break down and I don't cry, but I never want to go home. I never want to leave. I don't have a home. We don't have a house to go back to. But I guess the one thing that we've learned is that the less stuff you have, because you spend your life in a house, answering phones, making appointments, going to the grocery store, filling your car with fuel, paying your bills. We don't have any of that. We have none of that. And when you strip all that away from your life and you're not working for things, it opens you up to enjoy the present and the moment and the journey. And it's really changed who I am and what I value. I used to value, getting a new car or getting a nice horse or having things. And those are just things. They're not, living life is so much more meaningful, especially when it's something that you've dreamt about. So I just really encourage anybody, if you have a dream and you're holding back because you're like, oh, what about this or what about that? You're making a huge mistake. You got to go for it.
it's interesting. As I told you about cruising, uh, uh, our our friend was here for the weekend, and we've cruised a number of times with them, and we brought up the notion because we're older now, for sure. Why don't we just do? They have these cruises where you can cruise for 6 months, 8 months,
Mm-hmm.
stay on a boat, stay on a ship for 8 months. Um, anyway, and I thought about that. I thought it would be kind of cool, but I'm kind of hooked on football and basketball, and you have no TV where you are,
Yeah,
so
but if you get, no, we actually have a TV, and if you get Starlink, which you can now get on your phone, you can watch that anywhere you are in the world, so you don't have to miss it. We watch the
wow.
Stanley Cup playoffs,
Oh wow.
and we watch the Super Bowl. We watch everything right here on our boat, thanks to
Okay.
Starlink.
Well, then that's the best of all worlds to be where you
Yep,
are with that blue water and watching the Super Bowl when it's
yep.
cold. Wow. Um, has sailing taught you more about life than and you've got your master's degree than any classroom could?
Oh, absolutely. I found education to be worthless. I got a degree in English because I didn't know what I wanted. I thought I wanted to be a journalist, but I was all over the place. I switched majors like 3 times. And I don't look back at any of the first 4 years of my college that I learned anything. Nothing. It was all just writing papers to pass a test and what they wanted to hear. It wasn't what I learned or what I wanted to know. And I got my, like you said, my master's. And again, it was just paperwork and writing papers and regurgitating what they wanted to hear. And I think that real life experiences are what change you and what educate you, because it's a lesson learned by experience, not by reading it out of a book or somebody telling you about it.
Okay. I want to go off topic a second. That's one of my, listen, you study journalism. One of my favorite questions I love to ask came from a wonderful journalist, Barbara Walters. So here goes. Excluding family or friends, somebody living or dead you'd like to spend a day with. Could be one, two, none. There's no rules.
I think, let's see. I think I would like to spend a day with Theodore Roosevelt. He's one of my idols. He just was magnificent. And we listened to a podcast called History That Doesn't Suck. And it starts back from the beginning of history and goes all the way through. And he's a history professor, but he just does this podcast in a really entertaining way with voices and sounds and, playing these characters. And I always admired Theodore Roosevelt, but after listening to his real life story, he's definitely top of my list.
Talk about synchronicity. So I watched a reel this morning on Theodore Roosevelt. He had asthma. I swear.
I believe you. I told
I,
you, synchronicity. It happened.
Swear I never knew. I watched during the pandemic. I watched Ken Burns did a wonderful documentary. Did a million documentaries, but he did a documentary, The Intimate History of the Roosevelts, Theodore, Franklin, and Eleanor. And,
Mm-hmm.
it was one, and I watched it actually a few times because I had a couple years to kill, with the pandemic. But he had asthma, and this is what I saw this morning. He had asthma, and there were no drugs or things for asthma back then, except maybe drinking coffee. So he drank. Do you know he drank a gallon of coffee every day?
No, they didn't mention that in the podcast. But I was impressed by the fact that he got shot and still gave up and gave a speech
Yes,
with a bullet in him. I mean,
yes. He got shot right near the heart, but he wasn't
yep,
bleeding, so he kept talking for another hour.
yep. Didn't let them touch him. He said, nope, I'm doing my speech. I mean, come on. That's the kind of grit and resolve that you just
Correct.
don't see in most human beings.
You don't have, and I don't think he's given enough credit. Besides,
No.
he's on Mount Rushmore, but half the country is preserved because of him.
Absolutely. And we're huge state park people. We go home once a year to visit our kids, and our daughter lives in California, and our sons live on the East Coast in New Jersey and Pennsylvania. So we rent a car and we drive across the nation and we go to all the national parks. So we've done that four times, and we've been to like 36 national parks.
Wow. And a lot of that is Theodore Roosevelt.
Yes, it is.
Yes, that's so funny you said that. Do you have any favorite movies?
Favorite movie, Pitch Perfect.
Okay. Okay.
It makes me laugh. And my daughter started when she was 3 years old in a sport called equestrian vaulting, which is gymnastics on the back of a moving horse, which I did know nothing about it, but my kids, my students wanted to learn it. So I educated myself. We grew into the biggest team on the East Coast of the US. My daughter became a gold medalist. And in 2018, she competed in the World Equestrian Games and got eighth in the world. And it was to the music from Pitch Perfect.
Wow. Pitch Perfect. Okay, I got to check that out myself. I'm not familiar with that.
It's funny. It's just a
Is,
stupid, funny, feel good, make you laugh.
is that Jamie Lee Curtis?
No, it's
No.
I can't even tell you who stars in it because there's just a lot of really fun people, and
Okay.
it's just a movie I watch over and over. And I love music, so I just get into the music, and it's a cappella.
Okay. Okay. Um, all right, back to work. Back to work. It's hard to go back to work looking at that water. And I'm an ocean guy because when I was a little kid, my uh, actually I don't mind sharing with you. I wrote it in my book, Tortoise, but I actually was conceived at the Jersey Shore.
Wow.
It's November 17th, 1944. My parents went to the Jersey Shore. It was cold and it was pre-winter and they were very poor and they wanted to celebrate the election of Franklin Roosevelt for his fourth
Wow.
term. So they went to a hotel. It was a big hotel back then. It was 4 stories, called the Buena Vista. And they walked the beach, they walked the boards, they took a bottle of wine. My mother was telling me this, before she passed, and I said, I don't want to hear anymore. She said, no, you're a big boy, Calvin. You can hear it. And then they went upstairs, and 9 months later, I was born, and that's the Jersey Shore. That's Belmore. But I love everything ocean and shore, and that's why I could look at this scenery uh, uh, forever and ever. It's just marvelous. Before you became a full-time author, you spent more than 25 years, of course, teaching and inspiring students. I always like to ask this because my wife's a teacher. How did teaching shape your writing?
I guess I learned that people are most interested by stories. So, for instance, I would walk by some of the other third grade classrooms and the kids are all over the place. And it drove me crazy because the teachers they didn't seem to care that the kids were noisy and chaotic and everything. And I would walk into my classroom and I would sit down and in a very low voice, I could come sit on the floor. I'm going to tell you a story. And those kids would come and they would sit there quiet as mice and they would listen to my stories and they would be enraptured. And in those stories, I weaved in science, I weaved in history, I weaved in all the lessons that I wanted to teach them. And they were inquisitive and they would raise their hand and they would ask questions. And the principal would come in, he goes, how do you get your kids like so well behaved? I'm like, I don't get my kids well behaved. I said they're reacting to the stories that I'm telling them. And I learned then the power of stories.
Okay. Um, so folks know you write nonfiction, fantasy, children's books, memoir, adventure. Um, I'm a writer of sorts. I've written a few books, and how do you move so comfortably between genres?
That's a good question because whether it's fact or fiction, I'm still telling a story that I saw or I encountered myself. Now, while I'm a scuba diver, so the children's books, Sienna and Marlin, are all about the ocean. So I've been underwater and all of my sea creatures are real and the tides and the currents and the life under the sea is all real. And I'm not convinced yet that I'm not going to meet a mermaid. So I can't discount that. So it doesn't matter whether I'm writing children, adult, fantasy, it's all my experiences and things that I've seen and done. So to me, they're all real.
Wow. Um, I don't know if this is a fair question, but they're only books. But is there a particular book that's closest to your heart?
I love my memoirs, but my favorite book is The Seven, which I put out 2 years ago. And I actually got it traditionally published, but the person that owned the company died and they just went out of business. So they just reverted the rights back to me. So I'm trying now to find a publisher. So if there's
Oh,
any publishers or agents out there, this is an incredible
okay.
book because it was inspired by a dream that I had. Because unfortunately, even though I'm off the farm, I still dream about having to take care of the animals every night in my dreams. And I'm feeding horses and I'm taking care of my horses and they're getting out and they just work their way into my dreams. And then one night I had this dream and I didn't know any of the horses, which really confused me. But then I also discovered that they could see inside the hearts of humans to determine whether they were good people or bad people. And I'm
Wow.
like, oh my gosh, like, I wonder what they think of me. And so I woke up from that dream and I had this inspiration to write the book, The Seven. And it's about seven horses and seven people chosen from the pool of humanity to represent mankind. And these horse people would have an encounter with the horse, and the horse would look inside their heart and decide if they appreciated the gifts of the earth or they didn't. So with seven, there could be no tie. Either humanity would be redeemed or they'd be wiped out to start again. And all of the characters or their locations are people I know or knew. And so they each have a personal connection to me. But the history of the cultures is all research and fact based. The people about the places and everything about their cultures and their stories and their locations are all fact based.
Wow.
So you learn about seven cultures from around the world that you might have never known about.
So interesting. And I love the fact that it came to you in a dream, because you know, my first book that changed my whole life around wasn't a dream, but it was watching a movie, and all of a sudden the novel was there, and it's powerful stuff,
Casablanca. Yep.
right? It's powerful stuff. Um, so you have a new children's book, Marlin, which is about courage and
Mhm.
choosing to do the right thing and what's right. Um, why is this book important for young readers?
Well, having grandchildren, 5 of them now, and 4 of them are boys, I think that it's really important for kids to to explore life and to have adventures, but also to make good decisions and to do things for the right reason. And I kind of dedicated this to my grandsons, hoping it's really funny because my 5-year-old grandson uh just the other day went to his bookshelf. My daughter gives him hundreds of books, and he picked out Marlin because, Mommy, would you read this whole thing to me beginning to end?
Wow.
Grandma wrote this for, they call me Boat Grandma. Boat Grandma wrote this for me. So even if I impact my one grandchild, I've achieved my mission.
Okay. Okay. I'm a grandfather myself, a 5-year-old and a 4-year-old. Um,
Oh,
and I'm the opposite of you. You're out there in French Polynesia, and my kids are, you know, like a mile away kind of thing. And
well,
uh,
my daughter just brought the 3 and 5-year-old to spend a week on our boat last week
oh, wow.
in Wahine. And the
Wow.
moment, now, mind you, we haven't seen dolphins for almost a year now. The kids got on the boat and we pulled up anchor, and a pod of dolphins came and jumped and swam around the boat. And I
Wow.
haven't seen them in a year. Like, it was so magical. You talk about synchronicity and signs that you're on the right path, but to have those dolphins show up and have those children experience that moment, and the water is so clear, it was like looking through a looking glass. Like, you could reach down and touch them. They were so close. And the laughter and the giggles and the memories they made just from that one experience was worth the whole thing.
Oh, yeah. Wow. They'll have that forever and ever, that experience. Wow. It's funny. I was 11 or 12, and I had an uncle when we were down ashore. He took me deep sea fishing on a boat. I actually remember the name, the Marie S. and out of Belmore. And I remember that. I mean, I was 11. I was kind of old enough to remember that. Um, Another off-topic question. It's probably irrelevant, but I'm a bit of an environmentalist, and one of the things that worry me the most is plastics in the ocean. Do you ever see vestiges of that in all your traveling?
We don't really see it like out in the middle of the ocean, but when we go into ports and harbors, believe it or not, Ireland was one of the worst. We were stuck there with COVID for 2 years, and the harbor we were in, there was so much plastic waste that finally the marina put like a funnel in where the trash flowed to, so they could trap it in a net and then pull it out of the harbor and recycle it. In certain countries, we've seen it a lot, and other countries like here, it's rare that we see plastic anything anywhere. So I think it depends on the location.
Okay.
What we're more worried about is these Chinese fishing fleets that go through with a dozen 200-foot ships that have processing and freezers on board. And they put giant nets out into the sea, 60 miles long, and they kill everything that goes into the nets, the whales, the dolphins, the sea turtles, and they pull out what they want and they just throw the rest away. And they even have these pods that they put in the ocean, these big round pods with nets flowing down from them, and they put a GPS signal on it, and they let all the fish come and make homes underneath of it. And then they bring a ship up and they circle it, and they grab everything under that net and pull it on board and kill it. And so what sailors and fishermen are doing now is when they're out in the ocean and they see one of these nets, they go and they take the tracker off of it. They climb on it and pull the tracker out so they can't find it, and the fish can live in peace. But one of these fishing boats, these Chinese boats, went to the Galapagos. That's a very, very protected area. And they were caught with 90 shark fins on board. So they pulled up 90 sharks, cut off their fins, threw the bodies overboard, killing 90 sharks just so they could have their fins for their soup or whatever they do with it. And they're just raping our oceans. And unless they go somewhere protected like the Galapagos, there's no checks and balances for them.
Oof, oof. And you're right in the middle of all that. And I'm so in tuned, you know, to I worry about plastics, you know, because the fish eat it, and the plastics are dumped in the ocean. It gets ground up. The fish eat it, and we eat the fish, and it winds up in breast
Right,
milk, and cardiac tissue, and brain
right.
tissue. I worry about that all the time. Uh, all right, moving on. I like this question. Why do mermaids and now mermen why do those two things continue to fascinate us? Mermaids, mermen.
Well, I've always been fascinated with mermaids, even though wasn't around. I was in upstate New York as a child. I just loved mermaids, and I named my daughter after the Little Mermaid, Catherine Ariel Gieschen. So she was named after the Little Mermaid, and I've dug a lot into the history of how the whole concept of it came around, and there's all kinds of fun sea stories and artifacts and things that sailors did believe in them. That's why you see a lot of mermaids carved on the front of ships. So I find their history fascinating.
Okay. And one of my when I was a young kid, I watched a movie about uh, I forgot what it's called, Mr. Herlot's Mermaid or something, but it was about a mermaid, and the guy went to find the mermaid, and it was in a pool, and I kind of never forgot that. I saw it as a little kid, but it was so powerful for me.
Mm-hmm.
Another interesting question. You just mentioned, the dolphins. And you're on the open seas here. What's the most unforgettable wildlife encounter
Oh,
you've
that's easy.
experienced? Go ahead.
Here in French Polynesia, there's an abundance of manta rays. They're giant manta rays, and if you go onto my social media, my Instagram or my Facebook page, we were in a location where there's what's called a manta ray cleaning station. So the manta rays come through every day, and all the little fish go on their bellies and they pull off all the parasites. And it's just a place where they come hang out, they get clean, and then they move on.
They know about that.
So yeah, everybody knows about it that sails through here, but like it's in a remote atoll. So how many human beings ever actually get there? And first of all, and then you file that down to how many people actually go out and get the right time of day and see them and all that kind of stuff. So it's not it was a privilege. It was an absolute gift from the cosmos that we went down, and the first day we just snorkeled over them. So I saw them from the top, and they have like 12-foot wingspan, some of them, and they look like birds. They're just flying so gracefully going through the water, and they're so peaceful. They eat plankton. They have no teeth. They're no harm. There's no threat, and they don't fear people. So one came by and just brushed me with its wing, and I just ran my hand over the texture of its skin, and it was amazing. And I was just in this world, just sitting there floating with these creatures. And then we went back 2 days later and we went scuba diving. So now I'm underneath them and I'm looking up at them, at their bellies, and they all have white bellies with spots on them. So each has its own little pattern. So you kind of learn to recognize which ones that you're seeing. And one of the things I also do is write music. I use AI, but I do all the lyrics and everything, and the style of the music and the instruments and the sound of the voice. And I wrote a manta ray song. So I've got this videos of being with these manta rays and being encompassed by them and the whole experience. And it was absolutely magical.
Wow, wow, wow. I got 3 pages of notes here already. I just keep writing the stuff you're telling me. Well, I mean, it's in the book, but I just write this stuff down. With your 8 years on the seas, is there one place on Earth you believe everyone should see before? Is there one place?
I highly recommend the Azores. Some people say Azores, I say Azores. They're a group of islands about 800 or 900 miles off the coast of Portugal. They're owned by Portugal. And Flores is the first island that Christopher Columbus stopped at when he was sailing across the Atlantic to go discover the Americas. And they're so pristine and beautiful and unique. Each island is kind of a different time period when it formed. So they all are like different stages of evolution. And you've got some with, empty volcanoes, and everything has grown in. And on that island, Terceira, they grow grapes in the lava rocks at the base of the mountain, and it's white wine grapes, and it's the flavor and the whole story of these grapes is different than any place on the planet. Then you've got the island with the hot springs and the waterfalls, these amazing waterfalls that you can hike to. And on every single island, there's no pesticides. Everything, all the food is organic. And we went out to dinner and we got appetizers, salads, main course, dessert, a bottle of wine to begin with, a bottle of port at the end, and then agua gente, which is this disgusting alcohol they make that they really like a lot. But for two of us, that meal cost us $50.
Wow.
For two of us.
Wow.
You go to the grocery store, you fill up a basket with, and you put it on, and it's not going to be more than like $10, $15 for as much as you can carry. I don't know whether they're subsidized or what it is. And I'm a huge cheese lover. I had my own dwarf Nigerian goats, and I milked my goats and made my own cheeses. So cheese is near and dear to my heart. I wanted one goat on my boat, but my husband said no. So whatever. But every single island makes its own cheese. And so I'd go to the grocery store and I'd see the cheeses from all 7 islands, and I would bring them all home and put on a platter and have my own cheese, cheese tastings. And then you can buy a bottle of wine for $2 there. So you get wine and cheese, and the whole thing costs you $15. It's just, you can live in opulence and not pay the price tag.
Right.
And it's pristine and beautiful, and the people are kind and friendly.
Wow.
And the sea life, it's the whale capital of the world. You can go whale watching.
Wow. Wow. I've done whale watching in off of Cape Cod.
Well, this used to be where they hunted whales, like even came from the east coast of the US up, the Cape Cod area to whale here. And then they shut the whaling down. So they have all the whaling museums with the history of the whales. But what they still do have is on the top of each of these islands, they have whale watchers. You can see them sitting out there with binoculars, and they look for the water spouts, and they can tell what species of whale it is by the spout pattern.
Wow.
And then they radio that to the boat. So when whale watchers go out, they already know where the pods are. So you don't spend time looking for them.
Wow.
And the fish is incredible. You'll get the best seafood. And because it's a straight drop off, it goes down to like 1,000 feet immediately. So you get huge pelagics there. And the seafood is so fresh and amazing. And it's between 60 and 70 degrees 12 months of the year. It's a perfect temperature, 60 and 70.
Wow. Wow. Wow.
But tip, you don't want to fly there direct from the US. You want to get a cheap flight to Europe and then hop on a flight from Madrid or somewhere in that area, because you can get to the islands for like $70. But if you get a round trip ticket from the US, there'll be a couple thousand. If you get a cheap ticket to Europe and then take a flight over, it's much less expensive.
Wow. And I know the Azores is where hurricanes are born off of. Am I right?
Yeah, some of them start there, yeah.
Some of them start there. So I know about the Azores there. So, Allison, you and Dan have been on a boat for a bunch of years, a 43-foot sailboat for a bunch of years. What are some of the ingredients, and what's the secret that make that work? You're together like that.
Our life depends on one another. He would die of starvation because he doesn't cook. And he's a master of mechanical stuff. We call him Boat MacGyver because he stopped us from sinking twice now with basically a paper clip. And he keeps me alive and I keep him fed. And unlike land life, where you get tired of the person, when you are this entwined in survival, I get nervous when he's more than 10 feet away from me. Like, people are like, how do you stand being so close to him? Well, no, I can't stand being apart from him. So our whole relationship has changed and evolved.
It's so nice. It really is so nice. I mean, there's so many different aspects. If you think about it, there's so many different aspects about what you're doing, and relationships and togetherness. So important. And you're going to write about some of this stuff because people can learn from that. Great.
That's why I do podcasts with you, so they can listen to it.
That's the whole idea. I can't wait to start sharing this. I'm chomping at the bit because it's great. This is, listen, I've done this 6 years. I've done, you're almost, I have to look, but you may be my 499th or 500th.
Oh, wow. That would be special.
Yeah. I have to look, but it's pretty close. 498, 499, 500. And you're here with such interest and such depth and breadth and such fascinating stories about life. And which is a good segue for my next question. You have to see so much of the world. Um, have you learned anything interesting, different about people?
Yes, that we all have this perception of people from different countries that speak different languages, that come from different places, are different from us. But what I've learned about is the common connection of humanity. And it doesn't matter what language you speak. You find kindness and empathy, and that people are amazing everywhere, and they're kinder than you think. Like, being American and being offstandish a lot in public. If I didn't know somebody, I didn't talk to them. Here I've learned to smile. I just smiling at a person, and they'll walk over and they'll start talking to you. And I just appreciate humanity so much more. And I just see how good the majority of people are. And it just warms my heart. I don't have any trepidation about going to new countries and meeting new people now, because after over 50 countries, it's been a common theme that people are kind and wonderful and nice, and you just smile and say hi. We learn hi in every language. Doesn't matter if we speak it or not. And if you say hi, you open that door, and you just be really surprised what's on the other side.
The converse of that, it also makes you appreciate America, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. As far as a country, I mean, driving from one side to the other, that 3,000-mile stretch several times, there's no country that's more diverse than our country, that has so many different climates and so many different opportunities and jobs. And it's just, we definitely appreciate our country.
Okay. Is there a country out there that exceeded your expectations when you visited?
Well, I guess obviously the Azores, because I had no clue. Like,
Okay.
when we get to a country, we often have no clue what to expect. You might see a few pictures, but you don't really know it until you've been there. And our only way to get around is hiking or renting a car or a scooter. Trying to think if any exceeded my expectations. We spent quite a while in Portugal, and I was pretty taken back with Portugal. Portugal was a really neat place. I enjoyed the cultural aspects of it. I enjoyed the coastline was incredible, the Algarve. The people are the kindest people you'll ever meet. I had to go and my husband had to get dental work done that he didn't get in the US because it would have cost him $2,000 out of pocket. He went to a dentist in Portugal. It cost him $60 for the same thing that would have cost $2,000 in the US.
Wow.
So, and that's the thing, is people are like, do you have health insurance? I'm like, no, because we've been to the hospital a couple times and it's never cost us more than $100, no matter what we went for or what we had done out of pocket. So, like, why pay, several $1,000s a year for health insurance as we're traveling, when I think there's, I think it's like, I can't remember. I used to know how many countries have free healthcare, but it's a lot. And it's certainly not what we pay in the US. So I think that's the one grudge I have against the US is their healthcare system, because I see it working in all these other countries, and people aren't being, sent to the poorhouse by going in for a doctor's visit.
Okay. Has anything funny happened aboard? Something that
Something funny. We have a lot of funny moments, but yeah, here's one. So we were having problems with our autopilot. Our autopilot was turning on and off, and that basically steers our boat. We don't hand steer. This boat is really hard to steer because she's 16 tons and a really long keel, and she's meant to have an autopilot. And our autopilot kept going on and off, and it was nighttime, and it was like 2 a.m, and Dan had been up and back because I kept panicking every time something happened. So the autopilot turns off again, and I accidentally steered the wrong way, and all of a sudden the moon was in the wrong side. I knew we'd been facing it, and now it's behind me. So I turned the boat abruptly, which crash jibed our boom, and our boom went flying over, and something broke. And then I started screaming for Dan to come up again. So he comes running up to the cockpit, and he's, "What's the matter?" I'm like, "I think I just broke something, and we're not going the right way anymore." So he goes over and he sits down and he pushes a button, and then he just keels over, and he falls over, and he's just laying there. And I thought he died. So instead of checking for a pulse or doing anything like that, breathing, I panicked, and I'm up there on the radio screaming, "Mayday, mayday, medical emergency." And thank God nobody heard me, because he had just passed out and I thought he was dead. So finally, he starts coming to after several minutes. I'm like, oh my gosh, I thought you were dead. I just called the radio for Mayday. He's like, what just happened? And it was turned out that we laughed about it. You have to. What else can you do?
That's right. Funny, funny, funny stuff. So for now, one last question because we discussed this. I'll say it again. You guys can send me an email and hey, we're going to be here. You want to talk? And we just, if you want to do it this week, we can just do it this way and talk about wherever you are and stories and anecdotes. Hey, I'm here at 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. So to be continued. It's been absolutely sumptuous this time with you. I pinch myself. Oh, by the way, a little bit more synchronicity. I interviewed yesterday Jose Pedras. He's a spiritualist in Portugal.
Okay.
So you're talking about
Cool.
Portugal, and we talk about Portugal, and he lives right near where they do some of the best port wine in the world. And he was
That's
talking
another
about
reason
that.
I love Portugal. And we went to Porto, where they make port wine.
Yeah, he lives in Porto.
Wow, it's a beautiful city and
And so
beautiful.
he invited me to come. We just met this same place that I met you, and he's a spiritualist. We talked all about spirituality and his journey, and he was cured from cancer with his spirituality, and he said, "When are you coming to Portugal?" I said, I don't know, but at least I know somebody in Portugal. I'd come
Well,
visit.
let me tell you how you should get there. Have you been on the Queen Mary yet?
No, no.
It's the really, really, really unique experience, and it takes like 5 days to get across, and you will not regret it. It's just like going back in time. Our friends did it, and they're sailors also, circumnavigators, and they had to go home, and they took the Queen Mary, and they said it was just incredible.
Wow. From New York to Portugal. Wow.
They might go to London, so you have to take a train or a short flight. But yeah, you can get to Europe on the Queen Mary, and it's
Okay.
delightful. And since you love the sea, I think you would love it.
Love, love, love the sea. The cover of my book. This is a jetty in Belmore, and that's the Atlantic. And I took this picture 15 years ago because I would go as a kid. I used to hang out there, but I go every year, and I go on that jetty for 3 or 4 hours, and I just sit
Mhm.
and I smell the salt air, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, I love the ocean. All right. Last question for now. For now, uh, uh, when your incredible voyage is complete, and what do you hope people remember from this about the miles you've traveled and sailed, and about the life you've chosen to live? What would you want people to remember?
I just hope they remember the good things and not the bad experiences. And I hope it inspires them to go out and experience life. You don't have to give up everything you own and sail around the world, but go experience something that you've dreamed about, like somewhere you wanted to visit and you put it off and put it off, make it a priority. Because you're going to be surprised at what you see, and you're going to be really glad you did it.
Perfect. Perfect, perfect, perfect. As this has been with you guys.
And if anybody has topics they want to hear about, like they can leave it in the comments.
Sure.
So we know what to discuss. Like if they want to know, well, what's cooking like on the boat, or just whatever questions they have, I'm
Sure.
happy to answer them.
Okay, great. I mean, there's a million more questions. I hope people, if they send me things, I'll get it to you and whatever. So, this is it's priceless. This time with you, and absolutely priceless. There's another movie I like to watch, with Harrison Ford, Anne Hesh, 7 days, 6 nights. They're on some South Pacific island, Makatea, and I will love these movies not for the story it tells, but for the scenery, the beauty of
Mhm.
the South Pacific. And I was a big Club Med fan back in the 70s, and they had a Club Med in Moorea. That's why we
Okay. I saw
Moorea.
it.
Yeah, that I wanted. I'd been to 3 or 4 different Club Meds, a couple in the Caribbean, a couple in Mexico, and that was my next. That was my next thing to go to Maria. Then I got married. So much for that.
Oh,
It happens. So I'm gonna stop recording. You are gonna come back and for to share some of this stuff with this audience. It's so precious. I can't thank you enough, Allison.
well,
Uh,
thank you for having me. It really helps us out too.
oh no, and we're friends, and this is gonna. People should know. They should know and hear and watch and absorb because it's precious what you're doing. Truly, truly.
Well, thank you.
Yes. So
I appreciate it. I appreciate every day I'm here. Every day
yeah,
I'm granted another day. I'm thankful.
and gratitude's a wonderful word. It's a great word, and I'm filled with gratitude that this came about because my head is reverberating. I'm so excited to get this out there and to share this. It's so special. So I'm going to stop recording. Don't leave. We'll do a 2-minute wrap. Thank you and thank Dan. This was great. Truly made my day.